Seymour Duncan here and MJ in the custom shop. This is our third week, and we're very excited to be here. And we've been getting such great response, and we're really trying hard here to get the information to you guys, what we're doing and stuff. And we appreciate all the great things. We have some cool stuff we're going to talk about this week too, and we have a great thing we're doing. We had a visit by Jimmy Vivino from the Conan O'Brien show. He's a great guitar player, and he spent some time with us up here, and we're going to be talking about that. And some great news. MJ here is a grandma. Her daughter Heidi, who's a great flamenco dancer and dancer all around, had a baby named Aiden. And you want to tell us a little bit about Aiden a little bit,
yeah.
MJ?
Aiden Michael was born on St. Patrick's Day, and I fought with her because I wanted the baby to be named Patrick, but it's Aiden Michael, in 6 pounds, 15 ounces, and 18 inches long, and he's nice and healthy, and his very, very first visit was to visit Grandma's home, Seymour, Duncan. So he stopped here on his way to his house, and and it's a cute baby. So we're here to talk about pickups today, and well, I was doing some of the custom pickups this morning. In my mind, I was asking, it's a question for Seymour. Seymour, what was born first, the Dynasonic or the staple?
Well, what I recall is the Dynasonic, it was used on Gretsch guitars, and it was probably started around 1949 to around 1957. They used them pretty extensively on the Gretsch guitars, from what I can recall. The staple pickups started around 1954 on the Gibson Les Paul Customs. They were used on the, I think, the L5 and L5 CES, and so there's not a whole lot of history about the history of those pickups, but next week I will be finding out a lot more, I guarantee it. And,
talking about the Diarmond, I remember when we started doing the Diarmond pickups, we started doing them for the Duane Eddy guitars.
Right.
Was doing,
Duane Eddy for Gibson, yeah.
And the reason why the question came up this morning is because, knowing that we have more history about the Diarmond working with, we did the ones also for George Harrison.
Yeah, the George Harrison.
We did some for, Chet Atkins at one point. And also I saw, Duane Eddy, and on the staples, I haven't found much of history, like old players, being played, with the staple pickup, which two histories in here, Diarmond and staple. And obviously, by far, the Diarmond has more history being used in more, albums and everything for more people. And this is one of the, coolest, very old pickups, very elaborated pickups, lots of work, and very unique on their own way,
I remember one guy, MJ, his name was Mickey Baker, and I think it was him. He did a record with Mickey and Sylvia called Love is Strange, and I believe he used like a 55, 56 Les Paul Custom Black Beauty. They called it Black Beauty, Fretless Wonder, because it had very low frets, and they used this type of pickup because it was very clean for him, and I think he was an endorsee too of the Gibson. I remembered an old Gibson catalog. You guys probably know better than me if you have some of the old catalogs out there. But it's a real nice pickup. There's a lot of parts to it. If you ever have a chance to pull one out of a guitar or have a friend, pull it out, you'll see all the long, Alnico magnet. It's a sort of rectangular magnet, and it's magnetized from north to south, from the top to bottom. And there's a little brass height adjustment ferrule put onto it, and springs are in there. So it's pretty sophisticated little pickup. This was designed by Seth Lover, and next week I should have the original Seth Lover prototype that was he hand built. So I'll bring that in and show you guys and everything. So we're very excited about it, it's pretty neat, unique pickup. It's very clean. It's very clean and very bright, and has pretty crystally. And a lot of times you have to remember that the PAF and the staple pickup, the Diarmond, they were all designed with heavy gauge guitar strings, not like the 9 to 42s guys are using today. They were used from like even above 10 to 56. They had a wound G string, and the Diarmond Dynasonic, that allowed for height adjustment, so you could adjust the pole pieces and bring down some of the output on some of the strings if they were too high. So it was very, very well-designed pickups by Mr. Ray Butts, who I met many years ago before he passed away, and I was with Dave Kyle, who was at the time a writer for Vintage Guitar Magazine, and Dave and I went and visited Ray Butts, and he was such a nice gentleman, you know, and he took me to his shop and he showed me a lot of his early prototypes and everything. And well, Ray Butts didn't design this one. He designed the Filtertron that Chet Atkins used later. Harry DeArmond that did this one back in the late 40s, so that's that one there. And this is the Filtertron here I was looking at when I was talking about Ray Butts. So Ray did this one later on, and this pickup and the patent applied for were very close when they were both being designed by either Ray Butts or Seth Lover. And I think Seth Lover got the patent first on the humbucker one that was used in the Gibson guitars. And then Ray Butts' model was basically used for the Gretsch guitars also. But there's a lot of history out there in the books and stuff, and you can get more of it. But I just wanted to let you guys know that we make them, which is really cool for one thing. And it's a fun pickup to make, and we do them for a lot of major guitar companies today, OEM too. So.
And these questions came by because, I mean, we get a lot of PAF pickups to be rewound, to be repaired, to be, the original PAFs. And by doing that, we have the one in here right now from Richard Galliano, which I was trying to get, but it's in shipping already. That's where we get all of our specs. I mean, through our live, probably Seymour's and mine together, we have, rewound thousands of PAF pickups. Yeah. And that usually help us to go ahead and, create, more vintage pickups, and better vintage pickups. One of the things that you guys see when we're talking about staples, and these are only reproduction pickups of the staples and Dynasonic, Seymour always likes to go the extra 9 yards to do something as original as possible. Yeah. One of the things that we're doing right now, when I was asking him also the life of the Gretsch Filtertron, versus the PAF, that he just gave us the answer before, is because we're working on the Joe Bonamassa pickups right now. And by working the Joe Bonamassa pickups and seeing all the stickers and everything, and him asking to have a special decal, like the one in the old
had to apply for decal.
We needed to go ahead and make sure that we get the closest thing to whatever an old.
Yeah, we're proud about this. It's pretty cool,
And that's what's is going to be going in all the Joe Bonamassa, signature pickups. Those pickups are done in the custom shop. They're signed by Seymour and by Joe. And as we talk the pickups out of his guitar and duplicate those pickups, down to the specs, by having all the other specs of all the PAFs that we rewind and getting notes from everything, that's what helps us to be very unique when we do a pickup. That's what helps us to go ahead and give you a better product. And to go and use the original parts. And this is what the Joe Bonamassa PAF is all about. And talking about Seth Lover and talking about those, Seymour came out on this article that he wrote many, many, many years ago.
Yeah, it was done by Paul Vernon Chester. I guess he's a big fan of pickups and Seth Lover stuff. But he reproduced one of my old articles that I had done many, many years ago, and added a few little photos and everything. But it's pretty neat. You just look under PAF in the internet, and it'll eventually come up. But I took this photo of Seth a long time ago, and down here is a clipboard, and it says Seymour Duncan Guitar Research, which I always remembered. I always loved that paperwork that Kathy and I used to have when we were doing all this, and we first came up with trying to figure out what we're going to call our company and everything. I said, well, I like doing research, so add research to it. So that's what we did, But one neat thing, too, is when Seth Lover passed away, his family gave me a lot of his goodies out of his garage, and this was one of his old mailbox signs I thought was pretty unique, and it was pretty class. This is on my shelf in my office. And also we have friends who know we like we restore so many old pickups, and a lot of times we can't find the right wire for it and everything, and so we have guys who go to swap meets or garage sales, or they find old components. I'm with the Ham Radio Club, so guys bring me stuff all the time. And one friend had an old, I think it was a Thomas organ, and he said, "Here's something for you." And this is an old harness that was made back in the 40s, and it's all the old, real vintage cloth braid wire right here. And they actually braided it, and they actually tied it up, so it was a complete harness. It was made into a harness, and there's a lot of work here that you can see.
And as you can see, we've been using it.
Yeah, we use when I'm doing the old Charlie Christians and stuff, I'll use some of this wire for the beginning and finish wires and stuff. But you guys always ask me, where do you find your stuff? And this is where we find it. We have a lot of stuff manufactured currently, but as you know, the specs aren't exactly the same as what they were back in the 40s and 50s and 60s because of all the regulations out there. A lot of companies have just closed up, basically. A lot of the magnet suppliers have closed up. The people that make the magnet wire. And one hard is like the old enamel. And this is so hard, it's so expensive to get anymore because they basically quit making it for new substitutes. That you were using the new nylons and everything. But this stuff is called oleoresinous plain enamel. And to me, I love the look of it. I like how it winds. I like how it makes the pickup sound and everything. And all the Gibson humbuckers that Gibson did were machine wound. They weren't hand wound. I talked about that before, and I'm very emphatic about it. And because you can't make two pickups that sound the same. Even the patent apply fors weren't all the same because of the winding machine they had, and it wouldn't shut off. And their counter, they'd have to watch each. They were working two machines, as I said earlier. And one real neat thing is yesterday we had a very special guest that I'll talk to you about, and his name is Bob Bain. And Bob Bain is on the cover of the new Vintage Guitar magazine, and you can see him here in an early picture. This guy is the encyclopedia of guitar music. I mean, he's done so many great songs from Gunsmoke, Bonanza. He worked with Tommy Tedesco and Tal Farlow and Kenny Burrell. And a lot of times there were 3 or 4 guitar players on the one session, And we talked about some funny stories, so you'll be hearing about that later. But he signed the Vintage Guitar magazine for me, which I'm very proud of. And but this pickup here, that's a patent applied for. It almost looks like a Birdland that was put in by a Gibson rep by the name of Tiny Timbrell. And Tiny was an old friend of mine also who worked in California, and he knew Bob Bain from Henry Mancini's orchestra and everything. But there's a lot of great music. If you have a chance to get this issue of Vintage Guitar magazine, you'll see a lot of his old Charlie Christian guitars, the ES-150s and stuff that he has, and he has an old Silvertone 6-string bass, which is very similar to what Dwayne Eddy used at one time too. But check this out. It's really kind of a neat thing, so I'm very excited about it. And so how we doing? We're going to be talking about Jimmy Vivino, and we want you guys to see this cool video. And he came up and he brought us a Fender reissue Esquire, and he wanted to just make it sound a little bit different and everything. So we were very lucky to have Jimmy in the shop here. And he invited us down to the Conan show several months ago too, and that we had a blast down there. And I didn't realize how tall Conan was. He's like 6'6", I think. But we had a great time. And Scott, you ready over there, bud? Okay, here we go, and I hope you enjoy this. Thank you.
So I got a new Esquire.
You sure do. First, folks, I am here with Mr. Jimmy Vivino, who is one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and he's playing on the Conan show, which I'm very proud of. We
have the same taste,
and we have the same taste in music and players, and we grew up listening to the same guys. Even though Jimmy is a few years younger than me,
a couple. I wasn't in that picture.
No,
with Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
couldn't have been there.
That's a wild picture. But Jimmy has been, I watch him all the time, and he's just a great player, and he plays so many different styles, which I really appreciate. His brother's in the band, and the whole band himself is just pretty,
we love
pretty
in California.
And you're in California now. Yeah, they.
When people ask me all the time, "Oh, how do you know you're from New York?" and I say, "Well, I earned it.
Yeah,
I did my time.
That's it.
I was on my whole
you did your
life."
time. Yeah.
And the one thing I acquired from New York, which I'll always hold dear to my heart, is a low standard of living. So the minute I got out here, everything was great.
Oh, that's good.
So weather and real estate and everything, you know, I mean, renting an apartment here is nothing compared to Manhattan. So.
Really, yeah.
But anyway, I'm here today because I have a day off, and I try to come up to see Seymour whenever I have a day off.
And we were both at Defender. Grand opening of their new showroom.
Yeah, out by the airport. On Winona, in Burbank.
Brea. It was in Brea, wasn't it?
It's in, well, there's the one in Corona.
In Corona we were at.
In Corona, yeah. And there's a showroom in Corona which has a museum.
Yeah, that's right.
And
but the neat thing is, I played this guitar, and then Jimmy played it, and then he finally
and then it ended up in Burbank, and I saw it again, and I picked it up again, and they said to me, "You keep picking that thing up. Why don't you take it and play it?" You know, because I have a good relationship with them, and I like to play the stuff on TV and get it out there.
Right,
I said, "Gee, a lot of people aren't playing Esquires, you know." And I know that
just look at it. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
look at it.
It's the most simple. We said it's the hammer. It's the first thing
you
need in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Except that when I got it right away, it is an Esquire, so it has one pickup.
One pickup.
You know, and I changed the saddle so to soften the sound up a little, because that one treble pickup. And then I did something which you should never try, and I tried to fix it at home by myself.
Oh, well,
but I did put a Duncan pickup in there, but it was the wrong one.
You put a stack in it.
You have to know, I put a stack in there, and the minute I called you and MJ, and I said I put a stack in there, there was like silence on the phone.
Yeah.
And that... No, you don't. And they tried to be as nice as you could and say, no, there's the right pickup for the Esquire. I don't know the number of this.
Well, I call it like a 53 Model T.
Yeah.
And that's the one I did for Jeff Beck in Guitar Shop.
Yeah.
And you can really hear that distinct tone.
But I don't sound like Jeff Beck when I use it.
Well, you have your...
No, I'm trying, though. I'm trying, yeah.
He doesn't use flat wound strings.
No, but Jimmy Vaughn told me that trick. Put three flat wounds on the bottom, you know, and
cool.
you'll dig the sound. Because he knows I like real old records, too.
Right,
you know?
oh, yeah. Man.
And when you hear that old rhythm on a flat wound, it doesn't, the notes don't blend together as much. They really stay separated.
And Jimmy Bryan, I think he used flat wound
probably.
strings too,
I think a lot of the guys used flat wounds in Nashville in the old days and in Chicago and everywhere. Beatle records.
That's right.
Black Diamond flat wounds.
That's it, Black Diamond.
Labella or Black Diamond.
Black Diamond, yeah.
And that's all that was available.
And we used to just throw away the bottom E.
Well, that's the old banjo trick.
Put an 8-tenor banjo on the high E string.
That's the Burton trick. I guess it was...
Well, he used 3 8-tenor banjos, apparently.
8.
Eights. He was using 8, 8, and 8 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty incredible.
I don't know how he did it, but he's still doing it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we put this pickup in, and now we have it wired really cool, where in the first, there's only one pickup in 3 positions. So in the first position, we have volume and tone. So we can get the mud sound, roll up all of the tone.
And you get a nice wah-wah sound out of it, too, you know.
And that's with the classic sound, I believe.
Yeah, right.
You know, the classic telly. Yeah. And then we have the same thing here with, I guess it's, how many dBs up is it? A little bit louder,
Just a little bit louder,
A little bit louder, a little more throaty, maybe some more mid-range in it. So that's the second sound on the pickup. And then the third position is a trick I learned from Steve Jordan, you know, the drummer-producer. He's also a really good guitar player.
Yeah.
He's got set his up like this, where the third position is just the sound of the pickup straight out, no volume, no tone.
Yeah.
So you're committed.
Yeah, you're committed.
You're done, and you can't turn yourself back down. So you're just blasting all the way out.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's a really good sound. And we noticed it when we plugged it in; it was different.
Oh yeah.
You know, it just was really.
But the pots on that are nice because you can do a really nice volume swell with it. And it's very even. It doesn't jump on you or anything either, which is cool. But something about, you know, to me, it's almost a man's guitar because there's not a lot of whistles on it, you know, and you just have to play it.
And it's really great when you practice unsafe guitar with this.
That's right.
Nothing between the guitar and the amp, just the wire.
Man, just the wire. Yeah.
No electric trains or.
Yeah.
As my friend Johnny Copeland, who was a great blues guitar player, used to say, take all them trinkets off your sound. Let's see what you sound like. So, and
That's
he
great,
and he
yeah.
would plug, and him and Albert Collins would take something like this
man.
and plug it straight in,
Yeah.
and just actually brutalize the amp. You know.
They would, man. It's crank.
And we used Albert had that that
Quad reverb.
412s, I think.
No, it had
8,
had six.
612s.
612s or something.
Yeah,
I think.
612s. It was a really high-looking super reverb.
Yeah.
Quad reverb, and he used 2 of those.
2 of them, man. Remember sax player he had in the band where he had played 2 or 3 saxes?
Yeah,
at
that's
a
right.
time?
And then Albert had the
Yeah.
wire that was like 150
100
feet of coil for it. So you need 2 amps just to
man,
get some
I
sound
know.
out of the guitar.
And he had it cranked just all the way up.
All the
man.
way.
Used a capo, like maybe the 8th or 9th fret, and then he would slap those strings, boy. And that was Albert, man. Albert, to this day, is still one of my favorite players. Him and Roy Buchanan, Danny Gatton, James Burton, Albert Lee, all these guys that play telly. They all play a telly, but they all sound different.
Yeah, well,
which is so cool,
play anything else, you play a telly, you work.
That's right.
You
that's
work
right,
a telly.
Yeah, you work
and
a
it's
telly, yeah.
and you know, the thing I love, and I always say about a telly, is that's like an argument.
Yeah.
It's that you're having an argument with your best friend.
Yeah.
And you're just not letting go.
I know.
You know, you don't give in.
Yeah.
And you can win
Yeah.
sometimes.
What's really great too is you look at some of the old albums from back in the 50s, and you look at the covers. Man, I used to love looking at Albert. Then you would see a guitar like this on it, you know, and you would just study it where the switch was. You know, you're trying to find out how.
Yeah,
he
there's a
got that
Gatemouth
tone,
Brown album with a guitar
That's
just
right,
like
that's
exactly.
right, man.
Well, maybe it's a Blackguard, but
Yeah.
B.B. King with a black. Everybody
King.
tried one.
Boy, they sure did.
In fact, there was an interview that Scotty Moore did, and he said, you know, one time I'm not sure what I played on that record because I had one or other of them casters there.
One of those casters, you know.
And I'm sure it was an Esquire.
Probably,
or a Telly,
yeah.
You know, and that everybody played one.
Could have been a broad.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. The first...
a broadcaster, of course.
Yeah, but broad, but it probably, or no caster.
Or no caster, yeah.
The first Strat, I think, may have been, there were 2 guys. I think that Bill Carson had one.
Well, he was one of the helpers of designing.
No, who was the
Johnny?
No, the guy with Bob Wilson of Texas Playboys had a Strat. Eldon Shamblin.
Oh, Eldon Shamblin.
Eldon Shamblin had a
gold
Strat.
one. The gold one. I worked on that bugger.
And Pee Wee Creighton.
That's
had
the red one.
The red one. A red 54 with an anodized guard.
Yeah.
And he was known to be a big bodied, you know, like 125 or L5 player, you know, before that. So he was playing that, and there's a picture of an Esquire, Blackguard Esquire, of Oscar Moore with Nat Cole playing one.
That's right.
So he was trying one too, because everybody wanted him, because they wouldn't feed back.
Right.
They weren't making the buzz. Bob Bain, who was a great guitar player, who played Peter Gunn, told me, he showed me the guitar, and I actually played it. He has one with a humbucker here, and it's
in the new,
really raised up.
Vintage guitar issue this month.
We had the Hollywood Gun Club, you know, the guitar club. We played.
Yeah. Oh,
he brought the guitar.
Oh, he did. That's
he
right.
brought it, and he brought it in one of those old vinyl gig bags, and he took it out, and it was like the Holy Grail.
And it had the.
It's a raised,
the old cast bridge and everything.
It's
Paul
a
raised
Bixby,
Paul Bixby did it.
Yeah, Paul did it. It's up high.
Yeah, it's up high.
And the neck is shimmed like this high, and there's a PAF there.
Right.
And he said once he got that, he used it for every date, all the Mancini stuff, all the movie dates.
Incredible.
You know, and he used to sit his little deluxe, you know, amp, Fender Deluxe, just up on a chair next to him and play it in session.
Incredible. Yeah.
And before that he used an ES 150 with a Charlie Christian.
That's right, yeah.
And he said he used to have to sometimes, I got to sit this way and read over here, you know, because the buzz from those,
That's
you know, as great as they are, it was Charlie Christian that was great, not the pickup.
Oh, I know. Well, anyway, folks, I want to thank Jimmy for coming to our shop again. And, we're gonna add this to our library, and if you have a chance, watch Jimmy. And, great player, and I'm proud to know him. Thank you.
All right.
Hey guys, thank you, Jimmy, for helping us there. I appreciate it, and he's such a cool guitar player. I mean, I like him. He plays a lot of different guitars on the show too. If you ever have a chance, or I always record it on the Cox Cable TV box, you know. But this is what the pickup basically is. It's a tap pickup. It'll have your traditional tone in the first tap, and then the second tap we do some unique winding for it. And so in ours, I call it the 53 Model T, just for a fun name of it, because it's a Model T because it's tapped, and it's after a 1953 model that I replicated for a Roy Buchanan many years ago. And so I'm very proud of this pickup. I use it a lot of times. I recorded with a late friend of mine, which I want to pay homage to. His name is Bugs Henderson, and we just lost him last week. And a great Austin and great Texas player. He played out of Dallas, Texas all the time, but we would play in Austin and all over the place. And I really miss the guy. He's a great player, and his family's down there, Rose and his son Buddy and everything. And I wish him, peace. He was a great player, and all our reps, and he was such a foundation for all the vintage guitar shows down in Dallas. When we'd be down there, we'd play Dallas Alley in a place called the Elm, I think. I forget where that is, but we used to play all over the place. And a bunch of my guys, Bill Archer up in Dayton, we would go down there and watch Bugsy, and I'd sit up and we recorded a bunch of stuff. I did Honky Tonk with Bugsy. And then Bugsy did a recording of Man Loves a Woman, and he dedicated it to me, which I really appreciate, on one of his other albums and stuff. But and
we did the Bugsy Bucker.
And we did a Bugsy Bucker for him.
Bucker for him.
Yeah, he was a great player. So right now, I'm going to show you a few pictures of some of the great people that we work. And I want to, again, thank Cassio down in Brazil for writing into us right now and saying hello Cassio, from all of us at Seymour Duncan.
Hi.
We appreciate your help, and all our reps and dealers and everybody. I really appreciate it. But we're going to try to show you a few photos here, and Scott's going to zoom in a little bit. And this is a photo I'm proud of with MJ and Phyllis Fender, and my son Chris, who's actually in the photo too. So this was during the summer NAMM show, I think, which was actually Winter NAMM. They call it Winter NAMM in Anaheim. But I've taken so many great photos of friends, of great players, I should say, which I love. And then here's a picture of one of my friend. His name is Chris Rea, and I just love this player so much. And he's a great slide player, and he hasn't had a lot of notoriety in the United States. He had one song years ago called Texas back in the 80s, and but he's a great slide player, and I love this guy very much. And here's another friend of mine from Austin, Texas. I took this photo of Eric when he found a spool of cable, which he was so excited about. It was like low capacitance cable, and but he was thrilled. He came out, and he was like a little kid. I mean, I love him. He was really cool about it. This photo here is one of my old dear friends too, Danny Gatton, and I love Danny. And he's holding up a little arrowhead I made for him. I showed him how to do flint knapping, making stone tools and making arrowheads. And he was just a wonderful. He's probably one of my favorite players out there today, and he could play all kinds of styles and everything. Just a fantastic player. Here's another fantastic player from the Boston area, Johnny A. And I took this photo of him behind stage once at one of the NAMM shows for Muriel Anderson, the All-Star Guitar Nights. And he's such a great, wonderful player too, and I love this guy so much. He's such a great artist, such a great, fine player. And here's another great, talented player. I'm very proud to know is Carl Verheyen. He's playing currently with Supertramp. He's done so many recordings and sessions. He's like the modern day, like Bob Bain and Tommy Tedesco. He's always out there doing so many great sessions, and we're making some cool custom pickups with his new, I think it's L&L guitar that he's doing right now. And here's another old buddy that I've known for a long time, Steve Lukather, which I'm very proud of. And he's a good guy, man. He's another great monster player. And I saw him playing at the Mark and Brian Christmas show several months ago, and he's a great player. You can't doubt it, and he's so good. Here's another friend of mine. I love this young lady, Mindy Smith, and I'm so proud to know her. She's such a great young artist too, a great singer and songwriter. And boy, Here's Patrick and Zoe McCullough from London, Wales actually, and she's a great. She does plays a lot of Hank Marvin songs and has done a lot of the Nookie Fest over here in the United States and everything. And Julian's a good friend of ours, and she's holding up one of her new signature model guitars at the time. And look how young she is there. I love that picture. You know, hold them straight. Here's J.J. Cale, and he was a great songwriter too, and he wrote a lot of stuff for Eric Clapton, and that's Sage, my helper, who helps me at the NAMM shows on the right. But JJ, always a nice gentleman, kind of quiet, but just a great artist, you know. And here's two buddies. This is Dudley on the right from Ernie Ball, and Steve Morris from he's playing now with Deep Purple, I believe. He was in Dixie Dregs, and he's a fantastic guitar player also. And Dudley is a great clinician and builder, and he does a lot of custom work for a lot of the artists up there. So it's great to know these guys. Here's another fan guy. I just love this guy. His name is Philip Upchurch, and he wrote a song called "You Can't Sit Down," and it was done back in the probably mid '60s, early '60s, and but he's just a great guitar player, great writer, nice guy, great jazz player, and it's really cool to know him. You know, here is Gil Hembry, Alan Greenwood, and Jack, young Jack, who's a great drummer now. Jack's in his 20s right now, I believe, and but this was one of the NAMM shows, and I'm proud of this photo, being associated with Vintage Guitar Magazine for so many years, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I've written over 100 articles for him about guitar pickups, and I hope to get back doing it again. I've had so many people wanting me to do it, and I have to become unlazy and just get up and do it, you know, so I will. And here's my, people ask about what was your first guitar. This is my first Sears Silvertone guitar, and with the matching amp, or the amp that came with it. This is the same guitar, and I was so proud of this guitar. And I actually, you know, kept this guitar all these years, you know, so it's the only thing I have probably from my childhood, so it's a pretty cool guitar, you know. And here's Gil Hembry, who's a writer for Vintage Guitar Magazine, and MJ holding the first Gibson prototype Les Paul with the prototype Seth Lover patent applied for pickups before they even had adjustable pole pieces. These were made like the prototype, and I'll have the prototype next week here too to show you guys. It's really cool. But I'm so proud of that picture too. There's two very historical folks in the music world, you know. I appreciate it. Here's a photo I took of two of my greatest heroes, Mr. Jeff Beck on the left and James Burton on the right. And this was at one of the NAMM shows, and I think probably one of the first appearances of Jeff Beck at the NAMM show. You know, it's kind of hard for him to get away from what he loves doing, and his hot rods for one, and then his playing for another. He's been very busy this year, but I'm very proud of this photo with James and everything. Here's a cool custom guitar that we helped build for Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and we made custom Jaguar pickups. MJ fabricated the bobbin, and I hand wound it, and this is quite a unique instrument and everything. So I'm pretty proud of that, you know, pretty thing. So anyway, we're going to answer some questions right now, and so if you guys got more of them, you can still send them in and everything. So Scott, what do you have for us, buddy?
All right, so Nick Schwartz on Facebook is wondering what amp and pickup combination you use to produce kind of a jazzy tone.
Well, when I recorded a record it's actually on YouTube called C West. It's SEYWES for Seymour, and my homage to Wes Montgomery. And I used oh my gosh, what guitar did I use? It's I think it was a Tal Farlow guitar. I used 12 gauge strings. I think I used flat wound strings on it. 12s are like 58, I believe. And so for me, that was a cool thing. And I used a little Fender Pro Junior. I love my Fender Pro Juniors. If you want to do some cool recording or even playing, they're a real low wattage amplifier. I don't even think they're 15 watts. but they sound so good in the studio. And I did a record also that's on iTunes called OK Roy, and that is a just a cool sounding amp. I get such a great crispy Fender tone out of it using. I always use my 53 Model T pickups and stuff, and I use the traditional tap, so I get more of a Telly 53 Telly Roy Buchanan tone. And I played. It's called OK Roy, and I played homage to my friend Roy Buchanan, late friend Roy Buchanan. So those are my two. I like using a deluxe reverb too when I'm doing more of my bluesy stuff, recording. And the first song that came on the intro of the show here was a song called Turtle Wax, and I would use my deluxe reverb for that, for the live recording and everything. And but I've been using deluxes ever since they first came out. You know, my first one was in 1965, I believe. You know, and I like super reverbs too, but they were always a little bit too big. But the Tal Farlow guitar, and there's a recording on YouTube of Seawest, so maybe you have a chance to listen to it. But thank you, that's a good question. Thank you.
All right, so we have a question here on the chat. Killer Guitar Components wants to know, Seymour, what is, in your opinion, the best tremolo bridge out there? Do you have an opinion on different materials used for hardware and bridges?
Yeah, well, to me, I think the most fantastic bridge I've ever used, and you can hear it with a group called The Ventures. It's the Jazzmaster Tremolo, and to me that's the most floating tremolo out there that I've ever used. You know, the Kahlers are great, the Floyd Roses are great, but they sort of changed the tone from how I play and everything. And but you know, I still like the traditional Strat tremolo. To me, that's still, you know, it's a stock the old steel ones that were made back in the 60s and everything. I love on my Strat, and I used it for a lot of my recordings. You'll be able to hear it. I did some surf songs and called Rincon Point, and that was all Strat, and I could do some really nice tremolo stuff with it and everything. But yeah, the hardware, you know, there's a lot of fancy hardware, the titanium stuff that's out there, the brass. Back in the 70s and 80s, everybody went through the all brass phase, and I still like the brass saddles for a Telecaster because it fattens out and it, you know, knocks down that real high crispy brightness sometimes, and just gives it a warmer, smoother, fatter tone. So boy, that has to be up to your own personal hearing, what you hear and what you like and everything. So I'd have to make you guys make that judgment for yourself, because I don't really use tremolos, to be honest, except on the Strat when I'm recording, and I use the Jazzmaster, and I just like the Jazzmaster one.
Okay, great. Mark Darrow wants to know, for grounding purposes in installation, is a higher gauge wire preferred, and how important is a capacitor when installing pickups for tone?
Well, first, for a capacitor, I always use like a .05 or a .047. I mean, you're basically using it for a tone to roll off the high end of the pickup. So I pretty much keep traditional to what the factories would install in their original equipment. You know, grounding wire, I always use like a 22 gauge. Gibson sometimes uses like a B guitar string from the bridge, actually, to the grounding inside the control cavity. 22 gauge will definitely give you a faster response. If you use a real fine wire, it'll have more capacitance, and it can actually very lightly change the tone or output of a guitar, because you're using that as part of a capacitor itself if it has too much resistance in it. But you shouldn't have any problem using like a 26 gauge or 22 gauge. You can use a DIN wire, which is a non-insulated solid piece of core, steel core or copper core, that you ground from control to control, and that works best for me, you know, so it's pretty basic.
Great. Now, Mohammed from Malaysia, he says, to Mr. Seymour Duncan, can you share with us some of your greatest experiences in this industry and any precious moments or story with the legendary late Seth Lover? Oh boy,
Seth, I love Seth so much. He always joked around. He always was laughing. He always had funny stories about why he did something, you know. And the stories he would tell Evan Scott, who is in Germany right now. In fact, hi Evan, if you have a chance to get this. But we would spend a lot of time with him. We'd go down to his house, and his wife would make us tea all the time, or give us a fresca, orange fresca, orange drink, which was pretty cool. And he would tell stories about why something came about, and like the humbucker, the patent applied for, was basically a transformer design, which he enjoyed. And like when he helped design the Flying V, he wanted an instrument that wouldn't fall over when you would lean it against the amplifier. So that's where you get the Flying V shape and everything. And that was one of Lonnie Mack's favorite guitars too, that he always played and recorded with. That was his signature guitar, Lonnie Mack. He had a beautiful cherry red one, which I was, my friend Dennis Chandler, who's I believe he's in the Ohio, Cleveland area. He was a keyboard with Lonnie, and he actually got some prototypes from Gibson, and he actually sold me one several years ago, and that's probably my most precious guitar besides the Jeff Beck Esquire that's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So if you guys have a chance, go see it. But Seth Lover's story, he would always, we'd go out to his garage and he'd always pull something out. He said, look what I was working on. And he was very much into ham radio too. He loved ham radio. He loved repairing things. He was always repairing stuff. He had a bunch of sewing machines in there. He was actually working on, and vacuum cleaners. He would have to help fix up too. So he would be involved with those and stuff. And but the stories he would tell are like working at the factory, and when like Les Paul would come in all the time, and Les and Ted McCartney would get together, and Les would go in the back and try to make something real quick, or try to figure out something for Les. And when they put the microphone into the one of his Les Pauls, he was saying how he had to wire it up and put a volume switch on it and everything. So, but he had so many stories, and there's some articles which I will get posted for you. I'll send you some links of some of the interviews I did with Les, and you can read up on them, which is pretty neat. I appreciate it.
I believe this is one of them.
Yeah, there's one of them here. Yeah, and this is one I was talking about earlier by Paul Vernon Chester, and he talks about 1948 Gibson amplifiers and pickups, and it has an interview in there I did with Seth Lover. So have a chance to check that out, and we'll probably put the link onto our website too. So
one of the things I feel fortunate, working at Seymour Duncan, is Seymour Duncan Company is not only about making pickups and making you the best pickup ever. He tries to take care of his people when he knows they're in the need, and that was one of the things that happened with Seth Lover. Seth Lover, I believe, if you recall, Seymour had told me that he was living on a small Social Security pension that it's not, and now these days you cannot live with it. So that's when Seymour decided, okay, we need to make him a pickup so he can go ahead and get. And up to right now, the family feels grateful that the Seymour did that, because that will help Seth to have a little better life. And not only that, that's not the part of it. Every place that we go, the Seymour sees, a legendary, Tony could be Mr. T.V. Jones, which is great friends of the family here too as well, or anybody else, including Abigail Ibarra, which we're very close to her, and we're going to talk about her probably in our next segment. She's such a wonderful lady that Seymour and I would pay a lot of respect to her, she's a legend in the music industry, especially for all those Strat players right there. And Seymour, as a person, I believe he, deep on his heart, he knows that, what it means to be acknowledged, in this world. And it's something that Abigail probably does, or she hasn't gotten enough. I beg her to get a Facebook so we can go ahead and just like her the way she is for who she is. And Abigail has a lot of history, but we do not know her history. And we would love to, kind of see the history of Abigail Ibarra. We had once her in here, and Seymour and her wound up pick up together, have many pictures, many videos. And like I said, Seymour likes to, not only to Seth Lover, but, to anybody that gives Seymour respect, he gives respect back. And that's who Seymour W. Duncan and the Seymour Duncan Company are.
Well, thank you, MJ. That's very kind. But Abigail, yeah, she's just a sweetheart, and Aurora, her daughter, they're always together. They're like a pea in a pod, you know, and they're great. They're always smiling, and they're always happy, you know, which is so nice, and it makes you feel good, you know. And one thing that makes me feel good is, real quick, I want to tell you something here. I want to thank the city of Warren in Michigan, which my friend Captain Ken Meyers up there, he's a guitar builder. He's been a guitar builder since 1978. And the fire department, his crew, he's got, his company is Engine Company Crew number 2, and it's Captain Ken Meyers, and then Sergeant Bob Z, and then Engineer Jerry Noonan, and then firefighters John Podolak, is that P-O-D-A-L-A-K, Podolak, Jim Stevenson, and Stephen Sell. And first, they sent me this. I just received this last week, and I'm so honored by this. This is incredible. And they made me my official Seymour Duncan Engine number 1 fire helmet, and they made my own little crown for it and everything, which I really, really appreciate. And I think this was Ken's original hat that he had, and he sent me his father's and I think his grandfather's helmet, which I have in my office hanging up back there. But I just wanted to show you this. He built this, I think, commemorative to a 9/11, and this is one of the most beautiful guitars I've seen. And he did all the inlay, and I love the headstock on it, and the actual fire hydrant for the truss rod cover. And I guess Scott can scroll up and down on this a little bit, can you, Scott? And I'm putting, actually, we made the pickups, and they're going to be real nice custom antiquities in it, because the guitar is pretty heavy, and it's a bright guitar, and I want to just smooth it out a little bit and do some classic work to it. So, but I'm so proud to see this guitar, and that he sent it to us, and I'm going to actually do some recording with it too for the fire department back there. And so these guys work so hard, and I want all of them to get appreciation for what they do, and all the work, and respect the talents they have, you know. And sometimes you can't be a full-time guitar builder, but you can really try and get out and do it, even though you have another job and everything. And I've always respected the fire department, and my family, I've had cousins and friends that work for the fire department, and I remember reporting a fire when I was a little kid once. I remember pulling that bell down, boy, and I hear all the fire engines. It was pretty exciting. I was about 12, 13 years old, so I mean, it was exciting. But I have a lot of respect for the firemen and everything. But I want to thank Ken too for being a friend, and for the helmets and everything. So thank you guys back there. Appreciate it. So there we go. So anyway, we have more questions here.
Yeah,
and Scott will give us a few questions.
Joe Black here on the chat, he wants to know, for rockabilly, he's got a hollow body. He wants to know P90s, Dynas, or a mix of the two.
Boy, I've seen some guys put regular P90s in the bridge, like a dog-ear P90 in the bridge, and put either a staple or even a Dynasonic or Filtertrons. I mean, they're all pretty good if you listen to some of the older music out there. I mean, it's incredible. I'm trying to think. Some of the guys, I mean, a lot of them that I remember, a lot of them were using the Dynasonic, the Gretches and the old Dynasonics that were made from probably 1948 to 1957. So that, if you want that kind of guitar, even like Dwayne Eddy when he did a lot of his early recordings with the Gretsch, I think it was a Chet Atkins 6120, and but I would probably go with the Armins. I mean, I love those pickups for one thing, and we do them here, and they just have a nice voice to them, and they're the ones that have the 1/4-inch pole pieces, and we do a lot of these for the Fender company, and it's really neat. I'm really proud to be, you know, part of some of these companies that we do work for and everything. And then here's the staple one I was talking about earlier, Joe. I think I know you too. I think, you know, he'll write back and let me know. But that's cool. So anyway, but good luck with getting your sound, and give us a call. We can definitely help you. And if you need anything, call MJ at the Custom Shop, and her number is 805-964-9610, extension 1009,
Or email.
or email at mj@seymourduncan.com. So we'll help you either way. We can get you and send you some cool information too.
Great. One more question here. Matt Malou, which are the best pickup combinations for playing 80s hard rock, like Van Halen, Duncan, George Lynch, Rat, Whitesnake, and then he says greetings from Finland.
Oh, thank you there, boy. Anyway, MJ, you want to go there a little bit?
Well, I believe the 78 model will be one of the first ones.
Yep.
And we can make you a great set, a great calibrated set, neck and bridge, 78 model. But also maybe the IM1 will be also a great pickup. The IM1 is the closest pickup that we make to the Frankenstein pickups.
Yeah.
So it kind of stays for the I am the only one. One of those pickups will go ahead and give you the Van Halen sound,
And how about some of the ones we did in England? Remember that one?
Oh, the one we're talking about in here, we're talking the Halolata humbucker.
Oh, a lot of humbucker. Yeah,
You
those
know,
guys over there.
I mean, and if you
probably
guys
did in
don't know,
Finland, yeah.
but if you guys don't know, when I started working at Seymour Duncan, my very, very first pickups to do, it was the Jimmy Page pickup, And the Jimmy Page pickup has a lot of history here in the company because when I got and sat down on the table and I needed to be, doing a specific readings for that particular pickup, it was for Jimmy Page. And those two great pickups, I believe, either one of those will be a great set.
Yeah, so, but a couple other things too is even the JB. A lot of guys have used the JB for some of their heavy stuff. Now, what does Warren DeMartini use?
Warren DeMartini, Warren DeMartini, it is about 17.5K with Alnico 2 magnets, so it will kind of smooth your pickup, and that will give you a great rockabilly sound as well, The original is in drum space, and it is a great sounding pickup,
I remember making one of the first JBs. I didn't have the bobbins yet, but I needed a wide space bobbin, so we used the old Fender ones that we had, remember?
Yes.
And I made a prototype trem spaced JB for a song called Broken Wings for a band called Mr. Mister with a guitar player by the name of Steve Ferris. He was a great guitar player. And I made him the first prototype JB trem spaced, and he actually used it for that recording. So Steve, I hope you're doing great. And but we had a lot of help from great guitar players, requesting certain models or certain things. Can you make this kind of pickup? And we said, yeah, we can do it, And sometimes I would say, oh God, MJ, what are we going to do here?
Well,
but we do it. We figured it out.
It is like when the first guy called and ordered the first 7-string humbucker, 7-string humbucker. We only have 6-string bobbins, and it's easy. Just go here, cut it right in the middle, paste it, glue it, smooth it out, cut the bottom plate, and
That's what we did, yeah.
And this is what we did, when somebody, it was one of you guys, and I don't know who, the Fat Cat. The Fat Cat was born because one of you guys requested the P90 tone under a humbucker cover.
Yeah, so they wouldn't have to cut out the
guitar.
I
remember, getting the phone call, and I'm going, and I went, blah, 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 and the guy goes, what? I said, I'm cleaning my mind. How am I going to make this work,
Yeah.
You see the size of the P90, and then, this size to fit under a little cover. What? Cut it, measure, get calipers, measure, yes, we can do it, and it has been a great success. It has been a great success. So everything that we do, any crazy idea, we do it because of you.
Yep.
We do it because of you. Because if it wasn't, we're here. We create, and sometimes we come with our own stuff, but the very unique stuff also comes from you guys out there. You guys put it on your mind, send it to us, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, anything. We do a lot of lap steels. We do a lot of pickups I've done them for mandolins and dobros and all kinds of cool things. So, it's pretty endless possibilities that you can come up with, and there's so many new and different materials out there. I've experimented, like somebody asked last week, engineering. We had the samarium cobalt and the neodymiums and everything, but a lot of them always aren't the best for the tone of your guitar. You know, it really can dampen your string vibration, and here's a lot of minuses and pluses for different types of magnets and materials I use.
And Seymour is talking about magnets.
Yeah.
Something happened yesterday. Somebody came over to visit. And this particular gentleman, you know, Tom, he doesn't like Alnico 2 magnets, you know. And Seymour and I will love Alnico 2 magnets. So he came from Jensen Music. At Jensen Music, they were doing some sound tests and some struts, you know, and some other competitors' pickups and some other, you know, pickups. And the reason he came to us, because the pickups that won were the Antiquity pickups. And he was amazed, saying, but I don't use those on my guitar because he's a guitar builder, because I don't like Alnico 2s. What's the difference? I said, the calibration of our magnets. You know, I mean, even if he doesn't like Alnico 2 pickups, you know, but the way we do ours, and he tested quite a few pickups, he says, but those, you know, according to all the people that were in the room, because it was a test of different companies, different pickups, the Antiquity one, the Texas hats, were the ones, and he was amazed, you know, I mean, it is for him, because he says, because I don't like Alnico 2, and now I love Alnico 2 magnets.
Yeah, he made a special trip, man. He couldn't wait to get here. You know?
Yes.
He was burning rubber around the corner when he got here.
You know, but this is where Seymour is talking about the magnets and what the magnets do. I mean, it's not to say I don't like that. You probably didn't like that kind of magnet in that particular guitar or in that particular, I mean, model that it was used. But
Yeah,
always, you know.
A lot of times too, it could be other components. It could be the potentiometers could be wrong for that guitar, and you know the capacitors. I always, like I said, I always use like a .05 or .047, works pretty good. And we'll tell you about some tricks you can do next week, in 2 weeks. What happens if your pickup is too bright or if it's too dark? And I'll tell you some little tricks, and we'll have more photos for you and everything. And but how much time we got here, Scott? Good. Okay.
So
But thank you all again, and Ken and all the guys in Michigan. I appreciate it. And MJ, thank you for your help and your right arm support, and I appreciate it. And thank Mr. Seth Lover for starting such a great product with Gibson. I appreciate it.
and just remember, if you dream it, we can build it. And if you want to know more about Abigail Ibarra, next week, here, in 2 weeks, here at the Seymour Duncan Custom Shop.
Thank you guys. Have a great week.